Hello and welcome to our November virtual opening. My name is Emma Wilson and delighted that you could join us. This month's feature artists are John Gable, William Crosby, Holden Willard, and Ed Wintner. Thank you to our artists who continue to inspire and engage, and thank you to our clients who support the arts and stay connected with the gallery. Truly, you are a gift. So now let's hear from our artists. First, I'd like to introduce artist John, also known as Jack Gable. Jack is a contemporary realist painter and muralist known for his vivid use of color, light, and detail, and for his extraordinary breadth of subject matter. His subjects range from portrait and landscape work to commissions for America's Cup cruise, historical paintings and murals for corporate clients, and a wide range of subjects involving sport. Jack graduated from the Art Center College of Design in California, beginning his career as an automotive designer for many years before leaving for the coast of Maine to take up a career in fine art. Jack has an established international reputation among sporting art collectors and is known as the Dean of Rowing Painters. Both of these subjects are part of his newest body of work. Jack is also a portrait artist and has completed commissions for the Smithsonian Institution, historical figures for Washington, D.C. clients, and many private individuals. Please welcome artist John Jack Gable.
Well, thanks, Emma. Appreciate being here for a new show of four paintings. It's a great gallery. You do a fine job. I'm just proud to be here and love the space and the ability to show some of my new work. This particular show is a little different. It's something I've done that's closer to my heart. It's a little more free thinking. And I just do a quick thought on how this evolved. For years, I had another discipline out of state about over 40 years ago. And I ultimately decided I wanted to move to paint in Maine. And Maine, of course, is a wonderful place for subject matter and grouping with artists and so on and so forth. But when I first got here, like so many, I was painting just about everything. It was all new. It was all exciting. I wasn't sure what I wanted to focus on. I didn't know if I'd focus on the same thing for years and years, but who knows when you're beginning. But in any case, one day I had gone to a soccer match in Kennebunkport. And while I was there watching this high school soccer match, I noticed that the real interest for me was not so much the actual game, but watching the kids on the bench, the ones that weren't playing, their yearning and their fretting about how the match was going. And others that were friends were standing behind the bench, the girlfriends, the guy pals, and so on. And I realized that I wanted to paint that subject as opposed to the excitement of the actual game. And the reason I mention that is beyond that, I, for whatever reason, ended up being commissioned to paint many different subjects, many of them in sport. And they involved America's Cup cruise. They involved a lot of rowing on the Charles River, just all kinds of things. But what I decided I wanted to do was to try to establish a kind of new look to the subjects. And realizing that I loved painting the crowds in their anticipation, I started focusing on that. I would even get a commission to paint, for instance, a Bugatti at Pebble Beach, which was a classic automobile show, Concours d'Elegance. But the real interest to me was the crowd, amazing crowds of hundreds of people all dressed in period costumes. And yes, while I did have to paint the commissioned automobile, I discussed the subject in a way giving me a lot of leeway and ended up painting more about the crowds than the car, even though that was exposed. And for everything else, I have always tried to include the people, even Charles River paintings, where they're gathered around the boathouses and so on. I'm very interested in we Americans, what we do in our lives, how we're excited by going to events and interacting with each other. In any case, for this group of paintings, I had just finished several months doing a mural for a client in Washington, D.C. And it was of a subject that I wasn't necessarily, I hadn't really chosen for myself. I did my best on the job and it turned out to be okay. But I had been backed up in terms of personal work. And I thought back to these things that I love to do, that I would try to bring in a couple of paintings that were somewhat from memory, that involved, again, the crowds and the anticipation and so on. One of them was titled Jitters. And obviously it was of a bicycle race, if you see the painting. And I had seen this crowd gathered, the athletes primarily before the race, but crowds also around. And I walked up and talked to some people, and it reminded me of having been a Kentucky boy, seeing the great paddock in Keeneland, where the jockeys would all be forming with their thoroughbreds, and they'd have these great colors in their outfits, and just the visual beauty of the sunlight coming through the trees and so on. And this particular gathering of bicycle participants reminded me of that. I didn't expect to see it, but I remembered it thoroughly. And later I found out the term that they were using as this pre-gathering before the race was, they referred it to as the jitters. And that primarily referred to the fact that they were all nervous before the race. They'd laugh about it. They'd speculate on who would win and so on. And it was a painting that I had always wanted to do, hadn't had time. And so I created that recently. All of these, as a large title, I would refer to as In the Moment. But anyway, I hope you will enjoy them. I enjoyed painting them. It is pure realism. There's nothing deeply intellectual about it. I sometimes feel pressure to come up with something rigorous along those lines. But the truth is, it's an emotional thing for me. The most rigor comes when I'm trying to wrestle with trying to create a painting, since it is realism, that's technically well painted and has some skill. And that's the real battle and also the satisfaction when I get to the point where hopefully I'm satisfied. Anyway, I hope you will enjoy the show. I repeat, it's a great gallery. It's a fine group of artists here. I'm proud to be here, and hope that you will enjoy these paintings as well as everything else in this wonderful group show. Thank you very much.
And now I'd like to introduce artist William Crosby, also goes by Bill. Bill studied architecture at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, and earned a BS in design from the University of Michigan with a major in photography and a minor in painting. He also earned an MFA from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor with a major in painting and a minor in photography. He was a college art professor for more than 35 years at the State University of New York at Plattsburgh before retiring in 1998. Bill's work is often considered to be abstract impressions of the landscape. For Bill, it's his interpretive response to the landscape, the confluence of the real and the abstract accomplished in the studio after firsthand experiences in some of his most favorite places in the natural world. Whether along the St. George's River, Mount Katahdin, or the Adirondacks of New York, Bill uses bold brushstrokes to convey the energy and movement found in his favorite locations. Please welcome artist William Crosby.
Hello, this is Bill Crosby. I sign my paintings William M. Crosby, but everybody knows me as Bill. And you're seeing and hearing about some of my work at the Portland Art Gallery in the current show. This is work that's been done in 2023, with exception, I think, one triptych that's in the show, but all of it's very recent. And I'd like to make a few comments on some of the work that you'll see. I'll start though with the painting that's behind me. This is a painting in our own collection, but it goes back to my roots. It was done about 10 years ago, but it goes back to my roots at the University of Michigan and my academic work there, and my painting there, influenced heavily by abstract expressionism. Now, I don't really consider myself an abstract expressionist as such. And what I've done over the years is that energy of painting and that approach to painting has been integrated into my landscape painting. So I call myself more of a landscape abstractionist. Some of it lends itself a little more towards realism or impressionism. Sometimes it will be quite abstract. And the current show has some of both, or some of each, or some of several. The paintings happen as they happen right on the canvas. They're not totally pre-planned. A horizon line might be established. There's no horizon line in the one behind you. But in a painting like Crevice, which is in the show, this painting has a very strong dark blue horizon line. And that's not, many of you are familiar with my work. You see this in other pieces too. And then a bold sky of brushstrokes. And the dark blue works its way down into the landscape, and that becomes a crevice or a cove, and a suggestion of maybe of an island, suggestion of trees and foliage along the coast with some warm colors, actually, some strong oranges. Often I'll use a little bit of red orange or orange right out of the tube on the painting. Just a little bit here and a little bit there. And you'll see vertical brushstrokes quite often, especially in the foreground. And that's typical of my work, which I trust is something the viewer can let themselves use their own imagination, get into, catch the feeling that maybe I had, or let your own emotions respond to the painting itself. Now, another work would be Autumn Cove. Autumn Cove is a little more impressionistic. Again, it's a landscape and is easily seen as a landscape, not as a total abstraction at all. But it has abstract qualities, especially in the handling of the brushstrokes. A bold white stroke coming down through the sky, brushstrokes along the shoreline. There's water in the distance, whether it's a lake or maybe the ocean, tree lines, pine trees, and deciduous trees. And the foreground is muted, some muted earthen colors, which could be fields, could be growth of different kinds. Again, this is the start of something that you, the viewer, needs to finish. I welcome you to come into the painting and with no definite expectations. It's how you interpret the work and let your own emotions get involved, your own imagination, and take it from there. I feel honored and privileged to be able to show at Portland Art Gallery, and especially to thank the staff for these opportunities. They're most helpful in showing you the work if you have more questions, and by all means, you see it online, but it's much more of an experience if you can get in there and see it and experience the paintings in person. And the gallery itself, and the staff needs to be congratulated on this, Emma and Kevin especially. This is a very diverse, very fine gallery, diverse body of work, different approaches, and acceptance of all this is something else too. And it's very much something I think the world needs more of today. Not only the diversity, but the acceptance of it, and to understand and see and listen. Thank you very much.
And now I'd like to introduce one of our newest artists at Portland Art Gallery, Holden Willard. Holden graduated from Montserrat College of Art in May of 2021 and received his BFA in painting. Holden grew up in Raymond and Windham, and both sides of his family were potato and dairy farmers, mom potato and dad dairy. Maine has a deep place in his heart, and he is now based in Brunswick. Holden's inspiration lies within his friends and family, his community, his home, and the life and love that bursts from everyday existence. He is striving towards creating a dialogue between the past, present, and future, an essential device he utilizes to create a coming-of-age narrative in rural Maine in this, his first solo show. Images from home, adventures of youth, fears and anxieties, love and joy, expressed through eyesight and posture, just the subtleties, all in an effort of saying the unsaid. As a mother of 3 children, all in their 20s, this show stirs all the right emotions. There is a raw tenderness and love that Holden communicates with his viewers. He's unabashedly saying, "These are the people that I love. This is the world I have hope for, and these are the colors that light my life." It is an invitation to us all when viewing the show to reflect, connect, and enjoy. Please welcome artist Holden Willard.
Hi, my name is Holden Willard, and this is my first solo presentation of work. I'd like to say thank you to the staff of Portland Art Gallery for giving a solo show opportunity and facilitating the presentation of my work. I've been within this body of work for around 4 years. However, specifically, the time period in which this group represents is from 2021 to 2023. I graduated from Montserrat College of Art in the spring of 2021, and the pieces from 2021 are from the spring semester of my final year. The newest works in the show are as recent as this month. It's a small survey of my work, and I find that lovely because you as the viewer are able to witness my progression as a painter over the past 2 years since I got my BFA. My work is primarily dealing with scenes from my everyday life to create a narrative of rural and coming-of-age existence. I'm highly interested in the archival nature of photography, and this contributes to my desire to create images that reflect a quiet serenity, party scenes, memorable moments that last longer than life itself. Just moments from everyday life. I feel an insatiable drive to create and to interact with the world around me through paint, color, and form. My paintings build an attention to surface, and my teachers instilled in me a heavy knowledge of modernism, and one of which of these facets is an activation of the picture frame, all parts treated the same in a geometric sense as well. I'm looking to strive for perfect balance and tension. Everything is analogous, everything coalesces together, and I hope that you can feel the joy and the ecstasy that I feel when I paint. I hope you all can make it to the opening, November 2nd, 5 to 8 p.m. Really appreciate the gallery again, and hope to see you there.
And now I'd like to introduce artist Ed Wintner. Ed had more of than a fleeting passion for art while in high school and took his studies seriously at the Philadelphia College of Art, now part of the University of the Arts, during those years. His career, however, take a very different path. After earning a PhD in organic chemistry from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, he joined the fast-paced biotechnology world on the front line of drug discovery. After launching 2 biotech startups, Ed made the decision not to remain in that field and instead returning to his early love and devoting himself full-time to being an artist. Rocky headlands, long tides over the flats, silhouetted trees on the shore, and beautiful light that are so special to the Maine coast. These are what inspire Ed every day. Embracing his love of color, the interplay of silhouettes and negative space, and the desire to create a landscape moment that the viewer can step into is Ed's inspiration for this body of work. Please welcome artist Ed Wintner.
Thank you, Emma, for that introduction. Hi, I'm Ed Wintner. Welcome to the November 2023 show at the Portland Art Gallery. I'll jump right into the art. I'm a New England landscape painter, and although I paint in acrylic on canvas, there's a strong connection to printmaking in my style of work. Um, I love old Japanese prints, and also I'm particularly influenced by the style of the travel posters made in the US and Europe in the 20s and 30s, 1920s and 30s. Um, the flat planes of color, bold silhouettes of those posters, um, they're definitely at work in my pieces as well. In order to paint like this, there are two key technical requirements. The first is simple. I need to do a lot of layers, and they have to dry quickly so that I can put down another layer and create a nice crisp contour where the colors meet. Acrylics dry quickly, so that's an obvious choice of medium for me. The less obvious issue has to do with exacting shades of color. If you've ever tried to repaint a room with a matched color, you know how the tiniest difference in shade really catches your eye when you're talking about a whole wall of one color. It was frustrating to keep mixing exact matches on my palette, particularly if I went back to add something a day later when the acrylics on the palette were long dried out. That's where these come in. This is a tube, but an empty aluminum tube, same as would be used for your toothpaste. And what I do is I mix a whole set of colors, fill up the tube, crimp the tube, and then the cap's on it, and it's just the same as a tube of paint that you would buy in the store. So I'm not making my paints, but I'm mixing my paints, putting them in tubes, and then I have each shade of color to use that's going to be the same whether or not I use it in 5 minutes or in 5 days. So just to give you a little sense, this is one set of such colors that I've made, and it gives you a nice set of these receding colors from a very dark and full hue to a much more grayed out and lighter hue, just as you can see in the painting behind me in brown. So that's just a little insight into how I create my paintings. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thanks to the Portland Art Gallery, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you all for joining us for our November virtual opening. And thank you to Jack and Bill and Holden and Ed for their remarks. If you're in Portland, please stop in to see us 7 days a week, 10 to 5:30, or you can always find us online at www.portlandartgallery.com. I invite you to subscribe to Radio Maine with Dr. Lisa Belisle, where Lisa engages on our YouTube station. This is where Lisa engages in thought-provoking conversations with our artists and members of our community. Until next time, be well, stay curious, and keep in touch. Thank you.